Hey gents, Chris here, and I'm just going to talk to you about a really important topic, which is carbohydrates. Now, within the program, obviously, you get carb targets. They're really important for weight loss. They're important to have, and they're important not to have. So there's a lot of bad stories, bad news around carbs. So we're going to figure it all out now. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about. So first of all, we need to be aware of what they are. So the most popular carbs are bread, pasta, cereal, rice, potato, etc. So those are the main bulk ones that people choose. There's obviously lots of versions of bread, different versions of pasta, different versions of cereal, different ways you can eat potato, but mostly those are the popular ones. So what we need to understand is that carbohydrates are used for energy. Now, the blue square replicates your muscle. Now, when you eat carbs, they enter your muscle first. So they go into your muscle to be stored as energy, because you think the body wants energy to move, to go about your day, to breathe, to run, to sit down, whatever it needs, whatever you do, your body needs energy for. So once it's in that muscle, we've got two choices. It's either going to go to energy and be burnt off, which is what we want because it's gone, or it can be converted to body fat, which is what we don't want. Now, there's studies to suggest that the body, a standard sedentary body, can store around 500 grams of carbs. Now, that is its total storage space. So think of a petrol tank in a car, then you've got 500 grams. So if you put 1,000 grams into that, then it becomes an overflow. There's too much petrol in the tank. So this is often what we see when people add weight, when they put weight on. Because there's too much fuel, your body doesn't need it. So it has to convert it to another type of fuel, body fat, for it to hold enough space. Now, of course, the body can hold unlimited amount of body fat. That's how people get to 20 stone, 30 stone, 40 stone, 50 stone. So that's obviously what we're trying to avoid. So it's really important at this stage just to understand that carbs, when you eat them, so let's say we eat a sandwich, the carbs of that sandwich go into the muscle and they sit there until you burn them off. Or if you don't burn them off, they get stored as body fat. So already we can think our carbs should potentially be before a time when we're going to go and exercise. So if you are training on a Monday, for example, you might want to use your carbs the day before because you know it's going to be used up as fuel. If there's a day where you know you can't exercise, you might want to limit your carbs because you're just going to be sat still all day. So let's take this as an example. Where do you get your carbs from? So we always have to consider the calorie option as well. And what we're looking for first and foremost is not to overeat. That's why the calories are important. But within content, with the carb content, here are some different forms. So 50 grams of carbs in a baked potato, 24 in oats or porridge, 30 in 100 in a standard amount of rice, which is about 150 grams. Chips in a standard amount, that's about 30 carbs, and bread in a couple of slices is about 22 grams of carbs. So when we implement carb targets for you, you will literally be looked to be most effective. Go and look at where you get the majority of your carbs from and build meals around that, because we don't want to restrict ourselves too much, because obviously we know that leads to falling off the wagon, overeating, and all the problems that come with that, weight gain, etc. So we're looking for you to really build meals that are based around the foods that you like. So think about what you enjoy eating, enter it to Fitness Pal, and then you can start to build this plan. So if baked potato, for example, was 500 grams of carbs because, it was this big, then that probably wouldn't be a wise choice. So we're looking to fit within whatever your carb content, your carb target is. Let's say it's 200 grams. We need to make 200 grams and divide it between these food choices. So we might eat 2 baked potatoes. That's 100 grams gone. We've got 100 grams left. We might then eat 4 slices of bread, and we add that to the carb content. And we do that until the target has been reached, because whatever your target is, it's enabling you to lose weight and fuel yourself efficiently so you can go about your day. So you're not suffering energy slumps. So the biggest thing when people are overcarbing or overeating, and even just overeating in terms of calories, the first thing we would look at is your snacks. So here's an example of someone's snacks that we took from a previous client in previous years. So these are the snacks they were eating, and you can see they took up quite a lot of room within the calorie content, but also within the carb content. So if, for example, we have 200 grams of carbs as a target, then if we look on that bottom list, we could look at dairy milk, 3 cubes, and say, that's not a bad choice to have as a snack. You know, if I've got that sweet tooth, that's something I might want to use. Whereas we might look at Nutella, and it's 30 grams, but for 48 grams per serving. But think about how much serving is satisfying for something like Nutella. You know, if you do like Nutella, I don't personally, but I imagine one portion size of it, which is just a spread, is probably not enough. You probably need 3 or 4. So that's always going to accumulate quite quickly. So looking at this snack page, we can see this is where people tend to tip over the edge. So if you do have preferences of snacks and sweets, then we need to break down, don't avoid them. We're looking to reprogram them so they work for us. So you'd look at what are the best choices for you. So if this was like this was a man's list of snacks in the past, the best one there is the dairy milk cubes. So we'd look for him to choose that over anything else. So he gets his psychological kick, if you like, of having something that's nice, but he's also not having anything that's detrimental to his program. And also we need to look at volume of food. So think of this as calorie density. So a flapjack, for example, a small cube of flapjack is about 250 calories, very high in carb, very high in sugar. Whereas something like a chicken, probably the worst picture of a chicken breast you'll ever see there, but that's 200 calories. And look at the size of that compared. So we need to think about what's going to keep us full for longer, because we know that carbs, if they're too sugary, don't keep us full. If anything, they leave us craving more junk. So when it comes to calorie density, proteins and fats are a better choice to bulk out your meals, along with veg. Make that the majority of your meal bulk, and that's going to keep you fuller for longer, and it's going to leave you without that feeling of crave, of I want more. So there's an example, and there's hundreds of others where the calorie density of food is better in things like proteins and fats compared to sugary snacks. So then we have which leads us to the idea of the slow release carbs and the fast release carbs. Now, this is what defines what's a good carb and a bad carb in theory. So a bad carb would be something which is fast release. Now, what we mean by that is it's released into your blood really quickly when you eat it. So for example, if we take that flapjack, really sugary, so it's going to release into your blood really quickly. So if you remember from the first slide, all carbs are stored in the muscle. So how it gets to that muscle is we want it to be controlled, because the body can then take it and use it however it wants to. Now with fast release carbs, as you can see there with that diagram, it almost storms the door. Yeah, so we eat this flapjack, it's full of sugar, all these carbs just plummet into our bloodstream and rush to the muscle. So the body thinks, what the hell's going on here? I can't cope with this demand of what I need to do. So rather than think about it, I'll just go and store it as body fat for a rainy day. So that's what happens when we eat bad carbs, fast release carbs. What we want to do is prefer slow release carbs, which is things like veg. You've got things like sweet potato. Wholemeal carbs would be a better choice. So brown bread over white bread. And that's because when it's a slow release, it almost enters the body in an orderly fashion. It enters the muscle in an orderly fashion. So because it comes in so slow and controlled, the muscle can take it and can use it for what it wants to do. So that's the difference between a good carb and a bad carb. And we're always looking for our insulin level to be controlled. Now, using that previous page, the fast release carbs surrounding the muscle, trying to get in, frantic, causing a scene, is the same as eating very, very high carb meals. And think of insulin as the carrier for carbohydrate to the muscle. So I think you eat a sandwich, a transport comes in, which is your insulin, the carbs get on top of it and it carries it to the muscle. So this is why slow release carbs are necessary, because we want this insulin to be coming in at a steady rate, because the body is always looking for balance. It doesn't want to be too out of whack because it gets confused and panics. So when it comes to food, we're looking for that slow release carb. So the insulin, the hormone which carries carbs to the muscle, is always controlled. Now, if insulin is up and down and you've got high carb breakfasts and really sugary snacks in between and high carb meals, there's these massive spikes in your blood sugar level. And what that does is it causes the body to panic and store food as body fat. Whereas if we're almost got a flat line of blood sugar level, then the insulin is really controlled, which means your body's happy and it will utilize food as energy more efficiently, which is what we want. So think about how many carbs do you need to, first of all, settle your psychological impact towards them. Obviously, we like carbs. They taste nice. They satisfy us. They're in foods that we enjoy the most of the time. So we need to really cater for that. That's why if we restrict or diet too hard, we end up falling off the wagon, which we don't want to do. So we need to, how much do you need to satisfy that? Yeah. So think about the snack page. What's the best choice to give you that satisfaction? But also the physical impact of it. How much do you move in your day to day, or how much are you training, and how much carbs do you need? So if we look at people that are just starting with us, their carbs are usually around about 300 to 400 grams a day. Now, if you think from the previous slide, your body can store around 500 grams total. So if you're pretty much having your daily total in a day, your weekly total in a day, then it's very possible that you're going to overeat and store body fat. So we need to work out how many you need for, because again, most of you are sedentary. How much do you need to sit still? The answer is not a lot. Yeah. If you're going to train, obviously you need a little bit more. So we need to consider those things. And it's really building this better relationship with food in general, but specifically with carbs. So we're not dieting away from them, over restricting, and then falling off the wagon further down the line. So that is my input on the truth about carbs. I hope that's been helpful. This is why you need to choose slow releasing over fast releasing, good carbs against bad carbs. If you've got any questions on that, then please let us know.